Hello, today's our topic is me as a person, teacher, researcher, and project manager. So today I'm going to talk about myself, to discuss my identity. And it could be not so much easier to discuss it because usually you are being described by other persons, by your family members, by your friends, by your relatives, by your colleagues, but you usually don't like maybe to discuss, to talk about yourself. And indeed, maybe it could be even more interesting. How do you perceive yourself? How do you understand yourself? And how do you reflect yourself? Maybe it's something different than it's perceived by your colleagues, by your friends, by your family members. So indeed, talking and discussing about your own personality, it should be also very important and even very interesting. And usually when we talk about the personality, about the personal identity, we usually have in mind two major definitions. It's definition of the individual and definition of personality. Individual is something that is inherited. It's given with birth. And personality is something is acquired through the life. So when we're talking about ourselves, usually we try to define us and to talk about us more like as a personality. And our personality is something that is actively formed in the very close social environment. First, it's defined by our family, our friends, our relatives, and our colleagues. As you see, our personality is formed in relation with the others, especially with the others defined by the close social environment, our family and our friends. So indeed, our personality is mostly formed and mostly defined by the other people that are around us, and by the other people that we are having close relationships. So if we don't have very close relationships and if we don't have so much people around, it's even difficult to identify ourselves. Even it's difficult to talk about ourselves because our identity forms in relation with the other people. That's interesting and important thing, discussing our own identity. So when you're trying to describe yourself, you usually perceive the thoughts of other people. What did you say about you? How did they feel about you? How do they understand you? And you're trying that way to talk about yourself. And indeed, I had several friends in my life, and they said some beautiful words about me. That was very kind of them. They used to say that I am a kind person, that I am sincere. Some said that I am intelligent. Some said I am clever. Some noticed that I am a sensitive person, curious and even adventurous person. And of course, from some negative traits, they used to say that I'm a little bit messy with the things. I'm not maybe always very punctual and so on. So there are very different perceptions about my personality from some of relatives or friends' point of view. And so this is about my person. But how do I could describe myself as a teacher? Indeed, I used to teach some lessons in the gymnasium classes from 6 to 8 forms, teaching pupils ethics disciplines. And of course, when I was teaching in the school, that was quite kind of different environment comparing to the University of Applied Science, comparing to university environment, academical environment. So what was the most important for me working as a teacher in school? Of course, I was streaming to have distinctive teaching style. I was trying to do something different that is done by my colleagues at the same ethics classes. I was trying to explore more and use more innovative didactics. Also, what was also important for me, I wanted to be attracted for my pupils. That's why I was trying to be a good friend of pupils. So to be a good teacher was important as an image of a good friend of pupil, to be friendly to each of them, to know all of them individually. Also, being as a good teacher was also meant to be flexible in the classroom, to be flexible and open-minded in the classroom, not to be stubborn and very old-fashioned teacher. So I was trying to be some kind of innovative teacher. That's why I was trying to apply one or another more interesting learning method or strategy. So for me that was important, to be flexible, to be innovative, to be a good friend of pupils, and have a distinctive style of teaching in the classroom. As a lecturer in university, of course, I was trying to demonstrate more oratorical abilities with my students, to attract them with a great oratorics, with the great content of the lectures. Also, to attract with some kinds of teaching style and didactics. We used to watch very interesting educational films, do some group team discussions. Also, I was distinctive in that way that I used to organize some educational excursion for my students. That was also very appreciated by them. And of course by the other researcher. For me it was interesting and was important to select very interesting and distinctive research topics that wouldn't be boring, but also would reflect nowadays problematics and technologies of the research. For me also was important to have some co-authors or scientific colleagues that could help me with the research and publishing of articles in the different scientific journals. Selecting of research groups and implementing qualitative researches in the classrooms also was very important. In order to implement some kind of qualitative research, you must have certain target group. It could be either students, either lecturers, either scientists, researchers, with whom you can work and with whom you can discuss some scientific issue and get some interesting scientific results in the process. Also, publishing of interesting articles in the journals also was very important in order to publicize some interesting findings of your some kind of educational researches, to be visible more your scientific results. And finally, as a project manager, for me it was always very interesting to explore and to try out something new. I was interested in the innovative topics like innovative didactics, innovative learning methods, innovative learning strategies, innovative learning content. Also, for me as a project manager, was very important to have a good working team, administrative team of experts with whom I could work and could develop certain kinds of project and its products. Also, for me as a project manager, was very important to have very good international partners from the different countries that are very interested and that are very motivated to work on the certain topic in the project. And also for me, it was, as a project manager, was very important to achieve valuable project results that could be applicable at the local level and at international level. So as you see that different our aspects of identity, as a person's identity, as a professional identity, we could have several of them, like as a teacher, as a lecturer, as a researcher, as a project manager. And each of identity has its own style of working, its own value system, and its own social cultural mask. So you see that when what is here important, when you're describing yourself your self-identity. You always trying to remember what had been said about your work by your colleagues, by your friends, by your relatives. That's how you perceive yourself as a person, as a teacher, as a researcher, and as a project manager. So it is always important to have as much of friends, as much relatives, and as much as colleagues as possible in your work, in your personal life, to have more clear and complete identity.